We are now transitioning into artificial intelligence. AI in action, driving business value through artificial intelligence. And to moderate our next panel, we are bringing up a real expert, Bitkom's Policy Officer for Artificial Intelligence, Merle Ull. Welcome. Welcome.
Hello everyone, also a warm welcome from my side. Thank you so much, Sarah, for the kind introduction. I'm very glad to host this panel here today on exactly AI in action, driving business value through artificial intelligence. We've all seen a lot of different use cases how AI can potentially have a business impact. What we want to discuss today is how to move from a use case, from a proof of concept of an AI application to a scaled AI application that can create business value, can drive business value for companies. And therefore leverage the potential we really see the technology can have for us, for our economy, and of course also for our society. I have three great guests today here with me, with whom I can discuss the topic. First, to my left-hand side, Anja Vedder. She is co-founder and managing director of Industrial Analytics. She studied economics and law, and already besides her studies worked for a manufacturer of industry gas turbines. She then stayed in this industry for 11 years, and in 2017 decided to co-found a startup, Industrial Analytics, in order to offer modern solutions for maintenance, making use of AI technology in the processing industry. She now acts as a managing director, making use of her experiences as a head of operations and an after-sales service unit for a renowned German manufacturer of great compressors and turbines. Great to have you here and discuss with that, Anja. Our second guest is Dubravka Maljevic. She has a background in medical engineering, so she has a different perspective on the topic of AI. She is in the advisory board of a medical startup, LEMOA, that is concerned with cardiologic problems, heart diseases. Besides that, or besides her normal job, she is working for a big hospital group in Berlin, also holds an MBA, and I'm glad to have her here today and provide her perspective on the really important topic of AI in medicine. And our last speaker and guest is Ulla Kruhse-Lehtonen. She holds a PhD in economics, is co-founder of DAIN Studios, which is a Finnish-German data and AI consultancy. So she has kind of a broader view, maybe, she can bring into the discussion today. DAIN provides a vast portfolio of services in AI strategy, data governance, data science, data engineering, and also analytics training. She has very long experience here heading up data and analytics functions in global companies. So before DAIN, she led analytics teams at Nokia and Sanoma Media. Great to have you with us here
Pleasure
today.
to be here.
Great. Exactly. So maybe to start the discussion, I'd like also to help you as an audience a little bit more, dive a little bit deeper into what you are doing in your companies and how you think AI can potentially provide value to certain industries. Maybe Dubravka, we start with the medical area because it's, I guess, very relevant for everyone here. How do you think, what's the potential AI can offer, and maybe also how LEMOA uses AI to provide value for people?
Okay, thank you very much for having me here. So it's a pleasure to speak here about LEMOA. LEMOA, as I already told, is a startup which has developed platform and to predict heart failure. So as we see that the potential is tremendous for AI in healthcare. So, but the main thing that we have and that we need, that we have in the medicine, we have in healthcare, we have a lot of data, and the important thing is that these data are sure, so they're valuable, so we can then use them, and then we can help the patients. So we see in the cancer work, so we have a lot of things, and also with the heart diseases, so we can use it for predictive, to predict. LEMOA use AI to improve and to predict the health before it comes to heart attack. So for us, it's a great work and a lot of fun to do with this data.
Sounds great, and I guess the stakes in medicine are also very high, or at least the output you can get when you're doing something right. Well, maybe we also have some specific problems to the medical area, maybe also with regards to data. We can have a look on that later, because I guess privacy, medical data is quite sensitive, so we can maybe talk about problems with that later on. Maybe we can have a look at another sector, which maybe has kind of a different starting point. But Anja, what is your way of leveraging AI to create value in industrial analytics?
So when we were founding Industrial Analytics back in 2017, we thought what can bring really value with AI, and we think it brings only value or added value when you can put in your domain knowledge within the algorithm you are using. And with the background of the founder coming from an OEM for turbo machinery and within the process industry, we thought it would be a great benefit to assist operator of that machines, like you have in these power plants. For example, you can see here when going back to the city center, you will pass, for example, the Kraftwerk Klingenberg, for example. This is one of the main fields where we use our prescriptive maintenance services. And the idea is really to gather this sensor information, which you have already available in the plant, which gives information about how the machine is operated and the status of the machine. And the idea is really to say, okay, give more insights about the process and about that machines in order to ensure the availability and reliability of these machines, and to make life easier for people working within the plant. And this really creates really a value we can see using AI in that industry.
It sounds super interesting, because when you maybe wouldn't think it in the first place, it also sounds super human-centric how you're approaching using AI in order to create value. Maybe, Ulla, now we heard from kind of the startup perspective, you could say. I think you're also working with larger companies. Maybe we can also talk about that a little bit more. What are you seeing with your clients, the cases you have? How are they planning, or what are the starting points when they want to use AI? Maybe if that always works so easily as the maybe clients imagine, maybe we can also jump over to some challenges if you maybe give some insights about what you think AI maybe can generate as value on a broader scale.
Yeah, so since we're a consultancy, we work a lot with big companies, even though over these 6 years that we have been in operations, there have been a bit of a shift. So still some 6 years ago, many companies wanted to do a lot of pilots and POCs. And it's still something companies do, but they have a bit matured. So now we see a lot more of this, that people really want to productize analytics. Nevertheless, if you listen to Gartner, it's only 15% of algos are in production today. So there is still quite something to be done. I would say that it all starts with the business questions that you are answering. What is it that where AI can really help? So AI in itself is not in value. It is like those questions that you want to answer, and then doing really business case calculations, thinking, usually in companies, it's not the problem that there are no ideas for use cases. It's more like where to focus, because you can't do them all. So that would be kind of the first thing to get started. And oftentimes, then the next things are, so okay, but what is our current state? What do we actually have? Because AI or analytics, whatever term you want to use, is obviously built on data. And then it comes to, hey, do we actually have data? What is the quality of the data? Where is it? Is it all over the place, or have we already combined it so that we can call it an asset? And then, of course, do we have the right skills? Do we have people who can manipulate it? What are our processes? So if we think about then deploying AI and having this is in production, so you need to think about more than just having a bunch of data scientists. You also need to change quite a lot of many things. And so these are the questions we often then encounter when we start with the customer. So, hey, what is it that you want to do, and what do you have today? And there, from that comes this roadmap, the action plan for implementation.
Sounds great. Maybe we can jump back to you, Anja, because you said first thing to find the starting point.
Yeah.
How would you? Because you decided to found a startup and maybe not do it in your original company where it would also have provided value probably. What was your maybe motivation, or when did you know, okay, that is the right topic to tackle with artificial intelligence, and maybe also then the way to make it a real product. As you said, it's not like, okay, we now have a use case and then it's working out, but I need to somehow scale my application in order to make a valuable business out of it. So.
So I totally agree what Ulla said, and saying in starting thinking about usage of AI, it's not to only say, okay, we want to use AI. There's always a business background, and you need to justify that, and you need to build a business case which is sustainable and explainable. And therefore, what we usually do when talking to customers, really to say, what are the KPIs you want to achieve, and what is necessary to come to that KPI, to reach it, and really saying from the first beginning, what we are doing is pilots. It's clear. So we're doing pilots with first customers, but always with the target to say, if we reach that KPIs, it's always about scalability. So it doesn't make sense to stay on a pilot and then it's gone. But you need to deploy the software that we are providing of your asset base that you are using. So therefore, it's very much important to be open to discuss this with your clients, and to make that very transparent. And that the idea or the motivation you ask about why founding an own startup, Industrial Analytics, was that we saw back in 2017 with digitalization and AI, it's really a driver. It's still a driver, and we see a huge demand then still working back in that corporate company where the founder was engaged that time. But what we also see that there's some difficulties within corporate to really to have this fast development and to really go very fast forward, and also to create a business case which is also makes sense from an OEM perspective. And this is it could be a real huddle. Then you are an OEM and thinking about how can I digitalize my business and create value to my customers, but only additional revenue stream for my own business. And this was the motivation to say, okay, we cannot be that fast within the corporate. We can build up our own business on saying we are more flexible, agile as a startup, and bring that solution to the market at the right time. I think that that was the most motivation back in that time. And now I can see that it's always very important to do that product development together with the customer. So always thinking about from a user perspective. User perspective means who's the one using your solution? What is the requirements and what make their life more easy? And I mean, AI is like a tool, nothing more to just help you, but it's not, let's say, something that Ulla said, it's creating value from its own. No, you have to train the AI, you have to put in all that information that is in your brain, or that information that is needed to use that solution. And therefore, I can say it's always good to think about the user perspective when developing a product and to make it most valuable.
Ulla, you were agreeing. I saw maybe having a user-centric mindset is important to start. How important is it when you really want to scale? What are the hurdles there? I think we can also talk about the medical sphere, maybe with access to data, for example, or regulation you have in a place, which all makes it or creates additional maybe hurdles when starting. Maybe
I can say something. I agree with my both speakers. So one thing, when you spoke about, first you have to have a business case. The founder of LEMOA Medical, Dr. Enise Lauterbach, she is a cardiologist. So she worked as a physiologist. She saw her patients, and then she saw what quality of data we have and how many data we have. But we have it in the medicine, in healthcare, we have it all around us, but not one place. So she put from her, the vision was to put all this data together. One patient came to her and told her, hey, I just want to have my app so you can see my heart rate. So, and for example, now at the moment, I'm here on the stage, but I just stepped in. If we could have this AI tracking her heart rate and showing that she is, that her heart rate is going up and she's going to go get bad, maybe you can do with AI, it will help us. So that's the vision, to help us to predict, to do something before it fails. And also we have this driving business value through AI in the healthcare. So from my side of view, when I'm as a user of medical products, for us it's always the question, is this AI, is it, can I trust it? And first mistake is to think that AI is unfailable. So we cannot say the AI, we see a lot of potential in AI, but it will never will be used instead of a doctor or instead of a nurse. It always has somebody to check and to prove if everything is done. It's not like I trust, I'm blind, and everything is okay. It's something that we should know. And that's why we have, and you're asking us about what challenges we have in medical products. Medical products there's a market which is very regulated. We have medical device regulation, which is very, as producer, as somebody manufacturer of medical devices, you have to do a lot of documentation and to show, also when you're developing software, to show that everything is secure, that you can trust. And there is also not yet defined how you can do when you have AI and AI is training, when the AI is learning. So when you put a medical device on the market, you have one, how to say this, it's a one
finalized product, you could say.
I don't know. I do not know the word in English now, but I will come to. So at that moment, you have the one stage of this medical product. Yeah. But when it starts learning and it's developing, it's improving herself. That's another stage. Yeah. It's not the thing that you have been get through this medical device regulation. It has been changed. So that's it's also a big challenge for a manufacturer to get into market, to get trust, and also for the users of medical products, so they trust, and then they do not have in a clinical engineering. We also have what you have with your machine engines. For us, it's also the part of predictive maintenance. So when we have this, how can I maintain AI? What should I look? What I say? That's the part which is I'm thinking about as a clinical engineer. So how could I maintain it? How can I say it's always sure?
Yeah, I think on a regulatory aspect, it's creating a whole new questions. And for example, for medical devices, there's already a large overhead, you could say, of what is regulated. Ulla, you know different industries. I guess you also tackle regulatory issues, but I guess when scaling an AI application, data probably often also is kind of can be a hurdle, I imagine. I don't know how you maybe see the comparison, and is there a difference between industries when trying to scale AI? Do they meet different challenges?
There's certainly different challenges. So if we think of industries, so industries who have been a bit like ahead of the curve, probably coming from the B2C side, so telcos and media companies, retailers, banks, insurance companies that have had a lot of data since a long time, and that's typically personal data, so that we have a GDPR. But companies have already pretty much learned how to work with that. Of course, now we have the new AI Act coming up in Europe, and with all those risk categories, and that's something, the new thing that companies also need to then prepare themselves for. Also, related to that, this whole responsible AI thinking as well. So it's not only because it's mandated and you have to comply, but you also, companies want to be show that they are responsible in the use of AI. I would say then in the industrial sector that you're representing, it's coming maybe a bit behind, but there is a lot to be gained, because of course that sector is highly automated since a long time, but not necessarily optimized by data. Exactly how you in a production line or in a supply chain, how you combine data from different types of systems and devices and so forth. So definitely a lot of potential there to be gained. And maybe also something that now comes to my mind is this whole, one can make a bit of a separation between product AI and process AI. So I think like in your cases, you talk a lot about this kind of how you make products better. Yeah. But then what we see also, since working with companies, they may have like great AI-driven products, but then if you think of the bigger transformation, so the whole company level, might actually be that hasn't happened yet. So companies still, when they think of their whole supply chain processes or sales and marketing processes or HR or finance or even can be support functions or this more the business functions, then there are so many pieces that need to fit together. So which is a slightly different animal, because then it requires even more. So it isn't enough to have the technology and data and these kind of things in place, but people need to change their behavior. Yes. And which is also something that we see with many companies, this concept of data literacy is gaining importance. So a couple of years ago, everybody was setting up centers of excellence, and it's still happening, and it's very good to have those PhDs in data science, machine learning. But then people have also noticed that it might not be enough, that you have this pool of the highly educated experts if you want to make a bigger change in a company. And that's why many companies also start with educating their whole workforce, showing them what are the basics, the concepts in data, AI, even like statistical concepts. So what do biases mean? How do you ensure that your input data is in order, and so forth? And that, of course, will eventually then improve the level of data maturity or analytics maturity in those companies.
So I guess it's kind of a multifaceted kind of process. Now you have, on the one hand, you need to digitalize your company, basically. If you haven't your data digitalized, you cannot have a scaled AI application in the end. So I guess that's the first step. On the other hand, you need to have the human side, you could say, covered in order to ensure that exactly not only a few experts in a company know how to handle the AI system, but it supports, I guess, everyone, like human-centered development in the company. Because I guess maybe we have 5 minutes left. That as a final question, scaling AI also is not kind of a goal in itself, but it shall support humans in what they're doing. So I guess what would be your vision, you could say, when you have a scaled AI system, maybe in your area or in general? Rather short, because we are already in the final round, you could say. But Anja, maybe you want to start.
Yeah, so I want to add what Ulla was touching about the humans within each organization. So change management is a very, very important thing when it comes to automatic processes. I mean, this is all about, we are talking when using AI, and that means how disruptive is that solution and how much affects that your daily business and your behavior at all. And this has really very much to do with acceptance within your employees, your organization, and therefore it is very, very important to be transparent from the first beginning. We also were talking about trust. I think trust is a very powerful thing that you have to keep in mind, because every information coming from an AI system needs to be interpreted or be interpreted. Yes. That means that you have to know where does it come from, what is the chain, why does the, let's say, event alarm is coming up. So for an engineer, you cannot say it's the AI, and he won't accept that. He will never accept that. It would have to be very transparent. Why does the system comes to that information, to that alarm? And then it will be accepted. If it is transparent, you as a human being, you can, you know how it acts and what it means. And I think, acceptance and trust is a very, very important factors when changing, human being behavior and all this stuff. And I think this is the most crucial thing also when it comes to scalability. Yeah.
Would you agree on that, Ulla?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say 3 things. So it's the people. So ensure that your whole workforce understands at least the basics, the fundamentals of data analytics and AI, so that it isn't something like something you could fear and something to be left up to some other outsourced, other organizations. So that's number 1. Then secondly, put some governance processes around data, so that you actually, because AI is built on good data, that you ensure that the data is and stays in good shape. And as a third point, the technology side. So it is about real time. It is about edge, the new things that are coming, and also, like you mentioned earlier, this whole MLOps side. So if you want to scale, you need to do more than pilots. You want to have, maybe if you have hundreds of algos in production, somebody needs to watch them, monitor them, make sure that they calculate correctly, make sure that the data pipelines are in order. So you need to ensure that the whole process works.
Thank you so much. And maybe the last aspect on the medical sector, because here you have both sides, startup and like hospital company, basically. What needs to happen maybe in the hospital to ensure that we can have scaled AI cases?
But there is nothing to add. I already have say everything. You have to introduce your people. This is the first thing. It's starting. We have in the healthcare, we have this transformation process. We are starting with first our people, then the transparency. Everything has to be to know where my data is coming and why is this purpose or what is solution now that I have been shown from the AI. Why do I get this? And then you have to invest a lot of time in the people that they trust and they know how to use the AI, and that's the main documenting. So then later you can scale it if you use it for cancer, if you use it then for heart failure, if you use it, you can do everything. When you have good data, when you have good people, then you can do a lot of things with it. So,
the good final words, I'd say, maybe to summarize a little bit, because we covered some aspects. We once have of course, the technological side, as you also mentioned now in the end, Ella, MLOps is you need to have processes to ensure that once you introduce your AI systems, that they keep working and that they stay in place and hopefully improve through the processes and organizational structures you have in place. You need, of course, management backup, because driving it by yourself and only trying to make one use case work wouldn't, or doesn't have the potential to transform maybe a whole company. And then finally, the aspect of trust, which is also discussed now, or in relation to the European Artificial Intelligence Act, which we will, I think, all of us have to deal with in the future. Thank you all so much for the great discussion. Happy to have you here with me today. And I'm handing back now to my colleague, Sarah, and we can...
Big round of applause for all of our panelists, please. Thank you, ladies.